I want to start by describing authenticity a little more clearly and differentiating it from a couple other key security principles. First up is confidentiality, which is the one probably most well associated with the idea of cryptography and security. But very specifically, confidentiality is the ability to keep a piece of information hidden from anybody but the intended recipient. And this can be kind of exemplified by the difference between HTTP and HTTPS. The extra S on the end of HTTPS means that when my laptop accesses a website, before my GET request or my login information ever leaves my computer, it's first encrypted on my device. It travels over the internet encrypted, and then it's only decrypted when it gets to the website. So anybody in the middle can't see anything except the encrypted data and can't see what I'm trying to do with this website. And this is in contrast, of course, to HTTP, where all of my requests and interactions with the website, including my login information, happen in plain text. Next up is integrity, which is the idea that when I send a message to a recipient, that they have some way to verify that that message wasn't modified in transit by an adversary. So you can see an example here. Maybe I sent my bank a notification that said, hey, I want to transfer $1,000 to Bob. An adversary should not be able to change Bob to Amy without my bank being able to identify it. Interestingly, this is a great example of how confidentiality and integrity, and of course the other security principles, often overlap, but they're not exactly the same idea, because you can see in this example kind of off on the right, even if I sent that message to my bank in an encrypted fashion, in some scenarios, there's a way for an attacker to still modify those characters and have the bank decrypt the modified message in a way that's beneficial to the adversary. So many times I need multiple security principles. In that case, maybe I do want confidentiality and integrity as I'm sending this message to my bank, but they serve very specific and slightly different purposes. Next up is availability, which is the ability for a device, either remote or in my hands, to be ready for use when the user is supposed to be able to use it. And fourth, we get to authentication, which very specifically is the ability for a device, when it receives a message, to know that that message came from the person or entity we think it came from. The graphic here is from a project I've been working on this summer related to a key fob trying to unlock a car. And in the very early, very insecure designs of this system, the key fob, sent very literally a password unlock to the car. And, as long as there's no possible way, past, present, or future, for an adversary to figure out what the password is, this is potentially a valid form of authentication. But as we'll see in the workshop, the threat models we'll look at very quickly, this breaks down. We have to provide more and more complex ways of authenticating a device. And then the last security principle is non-repudiation, which is the idea that if a person sends a message, they can't later deny ever having sent that message. Okay, so 5 security principles. Authentication is one very specifically. And like I kind of mentioned, the key to establishing authenticity actually is very simple. The sender of a message simply has to provide a secret to the recipient that only it is supposed to know. And in the very simplest case, like we just saw, this could be a password. All right, if only the sender is the only one to ever know the correct password, like me logging into my my website, some website, then that's a valid form of authentication. But if that assumption ever breaks down, if there's a possibility that an attacker can discover the password, then we need to rely on more and more advanced ways of providing this authentication, which we'll do in the workshop. So before we jump into the first example, I want you to take a second and see if you can brainstorm a couple other examples of devices that might need some authentication. Think of a couple on your own, and then we'll start the next video.